match in Group Stage 2. Both these players will not be knocked out from this point on. It is just about who goes on to the Group Stage 3 or who goes on to the knockout bracket.
All right, here we are. Map number 1, starting in the northwest of the map, playing against the Blue Zerg. It is Mexico's Cham, playing for Team Chivo.
And spawning down in the southeast side, playing for Infinity Gaming, it is Roddy's boy, Goblin.
The son that Roddy never had.
Absolutely, the
That's
one from
title.
Croatia. I mean, Roddy's been around for a while now. Maybe it is his son, you know? Like,
That's what I said last time.
Who knows? Who knows? Roddy's been places, mate.
And he uses Phoenixes quite a bit, much like Roddy as well. From what I've seen, I got to cast some of his games previously in one of the Clashes tournaments online, which actually he did win and looked very impressive in, including actually some epic game.
Was that where he played against Skillus in the final? Yeah. Like,
that game was insane.
And he dominated Skillus actually 3-0. Like, I really thought that those two players were fairly similar in skill, and seeing Goblin really rise to the occasion. And this is just small online stuff, but in coming to a LAN of this size and this magnitude, I'm wondering if Goblin will be affected by nerves. Playing on the stage is a scary place to be. All eyes are on you. Every mistake that you've ever made, it'll be personified here and magnified. And I'm looking forward to see what he does. Already, by the way, Todd, opening up with a gateway and a forge here. Something a tad unusual.
Yeah, looking to try and cannon that second base here in a second. I don't know if Cham will be ready. He's checking with the drone. Okay, so he spots the pylon. Let's see how many drones he sends down here in a second. Goblin is going to want to look to try and wall off completely here, as to not let any drones in. And it feels like the Zerg player has already kind of been caught off guard, because even though he saw it, if you let these completely wall off just like it is now, the cannons are going to be going up no matter what. Now it really comes down to Goblin overcommitting or not, but it feels like that second base is pretty much dead almost all the time from there.
Oh, and waited until the absolute last possible moment there to cancel that hatchery. Now, what is Cham's reaction going to be? He's already using a lot of his minerals on something, so another hatchery goes down at the third spot. So this is not the first time that Cham's gone up against this sort of stuff. Goblin also cancels the second cannon. I think that was a very smart move by him, not to overcommit. But right now, I'd say Goblin's in a decent position. Like, this is kind of how you wanted the game to go. Or you wanted the Zerg to completely overreact, use too many drones trying to kill that wall and just end up in a dead spot. But Cham, he's too good to throw away a game like that.
Keep in mind, the Nexus was delayed a lot. Goblin was lacking minerals because he went for the gas, the cyber core, and in cancelling that second cannon, he actually got a little bit of minerals back, which allowed him to start his Nexus. So I think that was important to do that. You don't need 2 cannons at that location anyway. Some Lings are going to sneak by here. One of them do die. And we have the Stargate follow-up here.
I love this Stargate follow-up. We look on the mini-map at how far spaced out these bases are between our Zerg player, or for our Zerg player even. Having a Phoenix pick up drones between those bases could be incredibly annoying. Even getting the Overlord pick off here, so that Overlord stuck around for a little bit too long there. And right now, it definitely looks like Goblin has a little bit of an advantage here. Cham, will he be able to get the scout off though? That would be very pivotal in this game.
Ooh, he's sending drones. Oof. 1-8 points. That's why usually you don't want to have the probe there to deliver the killing blow. But yeah, that one queen cleaning up the cannons there. So you talked about Phoenixes, but Oracles also an option. But in this case, it's a Void Ray to clear out the Overlord that's around here from Goblin.
That's very unusual, like going for a Void Ray. I know a lot of people opt for like the Oracle to like Phoenix follow-up afterwards, lifting up a queen and such, but this, very, very unusual by Goblin. This is almost as if I'm watching a Strayer or something, you know?
You were thinking Phoenixes, I was thinking Oracles. Goblin is like, shut it, boys.
I tell
it's all
you,
about those Void Rays.
He was like, I'm going to show you that these casters know nothing about my style. And here he's already showing us something very unusual. Like, do you need Spore Crawlers for this? I don't know what he's going to plan to do with the Void Ray as a follow-up. Is it going to be a single Void Ray only? Second Stargate. So we are seeing something really, really out there from Goblin here. Roddy would be loving this.
Yeah, Goblin is definitely one of those guys that has his own style as well. There's a lot of like personal traits in some of the things he does. He's going to start a second Void Ray.
Bit of a supply block though, so that is kind of what can happen to you on a stage when you're a little bit nervous, you know, and you're pulling out something kind of strange here. More Void Rays. And he's also getting Warp Gate, and +1 will be started here. So this is definitely a huge, huge, huge committal to Air Toss.
And he really is the son Roddy never had, really.
The thing is,
+1 air. Not many people do this.
For Cham, he's been droning up pretty well. Like, he doesn't realistically have that much to fear. Like, if he knew that it was double Stargate, he'd just be holding down the drone key. There is one thing that I've always noticed about Cham's style, and this applies to a lot of his matchups. He always makes a lot of early defensive units because he has such a good late game, such good macro here. What are these Roaches really going to achieve against an air toss, actually? Like, I don't think he even has any ground units. So this is kind of a... You know, you blindly do this because it works in like 90% of situations, but this really feels like that one situation that is probably not the best move.
And now 2 Void Rays are flying across the map. So I think when you go for a build like this, usually the plan is you kill a bunch of the Overlords around your base, and then the opponent cannot really scout you, and then you fly in with the Void Rays and try to do as much damage as you can. But in this case, he went back into Phoenixes. Here did Goblin. So it looks like he's not just purely massing Void Rays for now. He did go for Warp Gate, by the way. A lot of people, when they go for this kind of build, they skip on Warp Gate. Now all the air units are being spotted, and Cham surely knows that it's a double Stargate play.
And Cham's doing a lot of the right stuff here. He's getting more queens, droning up like a madman, producing the spore crawlers. He now knows that those Roaches probably were a bit of a mistake, a bit of an error there, but it's just out of habit. You don't want to get knocked out by something weird and juicy, given that he couldn't scout the main base of Goblin. He didn't know if it was a Twilight Council or a Robo, so Goblin did a really good job of hiding exactly what he was doing this game.
You know what's crazy? Like, because he blocked the second base with the cannons and he forced it away, now there's this area. It's like a triangle, right? And in the center of that triangle is, I think, where Goblin's going to try to have his units be, and so that he can catch anything that's being rallied from one base to another. In which case, he can just pick off queens, drones, maybe overlords sometimes if they are being misrallied. But Cham's defense so far has been great. He's added off the critical mass of queens that Goblin couldn't quite go in and kill everything. He's added on spores, because otherwise he would have been more exposed against the Void Rays in particular.
The plan was good by Goblin, making these bases get very, very spaced out. But Cham's counterplay was very good too. He really focused on the queens, really focused on the creep. And even those Roaches from earlier, maybe they can get something done at this third.
Yeah, because there's really almost nothing there. There's 2 Zealots and 1 Adept. He needs the air units defensively.
Oh, this Void Ray. Oh, and it does fall down to this large amount of queens here. But he's going for a fight with the Phoenix. And is that on top of the Spore Crawler as well? That third's so close to dying here, Todd.
Yeah, I think he might be able to get it. No!
The Void Ray, the Void Ray. Is it going to fall to the Spore Crawler? Yes, it does. An immaculate defense by Cham, honestly. He only lost a few queens, but this Phoenix count, it is getting scary at this point in time. And he really wants to get some counter damage done here.
Yeah, and that was the only force field available here for Goblin right now. Cham knocking on the door step here of the Protoss, trying to break through. That one pylon still pretty healthy, but the gateway is going to go down. Another force field is dropped back on time. Goblin, the third base was prevented, goes for more Void Ray here on the back of this. Here's the thing though, Cham might have been able to trade well here, defend or like prevent the third base from going down, but only now is he starting a lair. And when there's this many Phoenixes, even sometimes if you have 2 spores, they can still fly in there and do a lot of damage. And not only that, they're banking up a lot of energy right now. Oh my god.
This is
the jackpot right there.
Yeah, if he can get those Overlords, that'd be really tasty. Although, if I look at Cham's overall supply, it doesn't seem like he even needs them. Those are some of the laser Overlords, and even making 2 more here too.
He has so much gas, actually. He could just go in Festers when he reaches Lair instead of Hydralisk, and then just play with the Queens as well.
Oh, this supply is getting silly though, Todd. 80 out of 170 here. He way overmade Overlords. Like, that could have been so many more drones. Right now, his economy, like he's really owned himself here.
I'm glad you're paying attention, Muslim.
What can I say, Todd?
I love
when I'm
looking
with you,
down there as well.
When I'm with you, I know I have to be looking at it. But this is a large fleet of Phoenix now. Now leaving any one of your bases gets ridiculously scary. Picking off Overlords here. And these Phoenix, they also do have +1. He even got Void Rays for defense. Like, not really any unit can hop across the map and deal really good damage here because you have to get past the Phoenix. So realistically, the only thing you can send that isn't going to take too much energy to lift up is Zerglings.
I like the transition into charge here, and most likely High Templars and some Archons as well. This is how once upon a time the meta actually was. Remember, like Naniwa and all these guys, they used to do this build all the time with like a lot of Void Rays, Charge Lots.
Do you remember like Whirlwind, the mana, or rather the Naniwa versus Life game, where it was the Void Rays holding the second base and stuff against Life, against the Hydras? It was so good. I do like Goblin's style though. It seems annoying to play against, and also he is showcasing that he can macro and he can multicast. He can do a lot of things because Cham, he's no easy opponent.
Yeah, Cham, I'm definitely impressed with some of the ways that he's dealt with this, but Goblin definitely has some good momentum. This Phoenix is still very scary with the +1 attack that take down Queens very quickly, and now Cham might have overextended here a little bit. Loses a lot of his twins.
Oh, and again, Todd, we have to talk about this gas bank. Over 2,000 gas this far into the game. It really feels like Cham fell apart a lot. What is the unit loss tab at for this game?
Oh my god, Cham's not ready on the ground here. Especially that those Phoenixes can fly in and kill the Hydralisks.
Oh,
Goblin!
no.
He killed a lot of units with the Phoenixes, smells blood in the water, moves across the map with just a small force on the ground. And now the air units are gonna assist the ground so well. Goblin just grabs the win just like that.
What a ragtag group of units, like 2 or 3 Void Rays, a ton of Phoenix, a single Archon, and then some charge lots. That was a very strange army composition, but he did so much damage, and Cham did so much damage to himself as well that game that it just worked out beautifully. Like, the game plan was so good for Goblin, and you can see that Cham is a little bit like, well, man, I feel I messed up a little bit, but also this kid threw something straight out of Croatia at me, and I didn't know how to deal with it.
Croatia is playing as well as in the World Cup, apparently.
And, you know, Goblin, he's a young guy, he's 17 years old, but I'm looking at him right there. He looks calm as a cucumber, actually. Like, that is a very focused young player, and no jitters, no shakes, just waiting for that next game. He wants to get through this group, man, and he's playing very well.
It's really cool to see the new generation, you know, with guys like Raynor,
Clem,
and
Goblin
as well, Skillis.
Yeah, you see it. Actually, very often you can talk about like, oh, where's the new talent and stuff? Well, they are there.
Yeah.
They just haven't been allowed in the tournaments until they hit the age of 16 and such to compete. And
then obviously it's going to take some time, you know,
right.
for them to start doing better and better. Even though Raynor, like, didn't wait too long before really starting to leave his mark.
I tell you what, I mean, Raynor was already leaving marks back when he was 14 at DreamHacks and such.
But even for Serral, actually, it took some time. Remember, like, we used to hype Serral a lot, but at first he wasn't necessarily winning the tournaments, but he was doing pretty well in them, and then he just started winning everything all of a sudden.
It feels... Confidence is such a big thing in StarCraft 2 because a lot of moves that you make, you have to be decisive, right? Like, at any point in time, there's 5 or 6 things that you can do. And a lot of players, they get very stuck between doing 2 of them, but more often than not, you just have to go for one. You go with your gut instinct. You're going to have losses like that, but you're also going to have a lot of success if you really are decisive with your moves and plays. But so far, I'm very impressed by Goblin. He really stopped Cham from getting to do what he really wanted to do. And right now in this matchup, like PvZ, I know there's a lot of things that Zerg can throw at Protosses, like Roach Ling attacks, like Baneling Busts and stuff, but it is very much about the Protoss throwing something at the Zerg, and the Zerg has to react perfectly to stop it.
And the re-walling back at home was very impressive. It was extremely clutch. If those Lings had gotten in, that would have been curtains. He would have lost instantly.
And the choice about the second sentry, like he doesn't really want to be using gas on a sentry, but that paid off in dividends. Absolutely.
All right, here we are. Map number 2 here, going to be played on King's Cove. Starting in the bottom right-hand side of the map, playing as the Blue Zerg, it is Chivo's Cham.
And again, our player, currently 1-0 up in this series, playing for Infinity Gaming, it is Goblin.
Definitely an unconventional style from here in game number 1. The Void Race, you don't really see that very often. The +1 air.
The late cannon rush as well with the gateway first kind of thing. That's also kind of strange. Like it was all about throwing his opponent off, right? Like Cham, he's a very, very solid player. He actually plays so much on the EU and NA ladder. Like he was competing in Ladder Heroes Weekly for both servers. That's how much this guy was playing. But
a true grinder.
A true grinder, but he has very, very real reads in his play. He always makes very early defensive units. Those Roaches, I talked about that. He does it in ZVT as well. He does it in ZVZ also. Very, very safe. But when you're so safe against things early on, it can also cripple you later on where you become unsafe against like weird timings where these players don't hit these regular builds or like they play more greedy. And that's exactly what happened that game.
Playing safe is bad against greedy because you're trying to defend something that's not coming and the opponent's building up their economy more than you are, or they're taking more. And in this case, if he does that all the time and Goblin doesn't go all out on the aggression, then obviously he's going to be able to pull ahead in this kind of game early on. Yeah, Cham last game didn't quite build up his drone count as much as he wanted to. But again, I feel like it's Goblin that pushed Cham off out of his comfort zone, I think.
Out of his rhythm, yeah.
Because of the build that he was using with the Void Race. Like he was forcing a lot of spores. Cham was kind of like, okay, I don't know where my queens are supposed to be. I'll keep them at the third base and stuff. It was a really chaotic game from the get-go, even right after the cannon rush. It's so awkward to have your 3 bases like so spread out like this.
This was a play, like this was a case of one player playing very meta by the book, which was Cham, and another guy being like, okay, I know the meta style, I'm going to do everything I can to make the game as uncomfortable as possible for you. Even about like forcing the 3 bases that we did see, then trying to utilize the lack of creep spread between those bases. It was all very smart by Goblin. I liked it a lot. And here, we see something totally different from him. He gets that very early Stalker again because vision, knowledge is power in Starcraft 2, and it always has been, but especially when your opponent has to react to you, and he's going for a Robo behind this as well.
And the Overlord was misplaced. If it had been under the Cyber Core, where there is that high ground that you can hide on, he could actually save it. It does get the Scout, though, so I guess that was the main goal of that.
Right now, though, like...
Instead of choosing safety, he wanted to make sure he knew how the opponent was opening.
This is such an early sacked Overlord, though. Like, right now, he can't make any workers. He is supply blocked. It felt like these next 2 Overlords, too, were maybe a little bit oddly timed, like they weren't ready. But one thing about seeing a Robo, that can be so much more, right? Like, Robo can lead into Immortal, Whip, Warp Prism drops. He can lead into the Marjorie build that everybody's talked about with the mass charge lots, the Twilight Council. Even though you see part of the picture, there is so many missing gaps that you still need to fill. And for losing an Overlord, it's scary business.
Yeah. He still has another one, though, a follow-up Overlord on the top-hand side of the map. They're ready to kind of dive in and get a follow-up Scout if he wanted to, but without Pneumatized Carapace, that would die as well, like pretty quickly after that.
And if you're wondering what he's doing with this Immortal here, Goblin plays a little bit blind. So there are possibilities that a Nidus could come in, because he scouted absolutely nothing. So upon playing so blind, yeah, he is patrolling that Immortal, just making sure, like, hey, if you do actually do any Nidus cheeky stuff in my main base, I'm going to be ready for you, sir.
And the Overlord almost could see this Immortal patrolling around, but not quite.
So this is some stuff that I was talking with Rotterdam about. This is a build that Goblin loves. He gets 2 Immortals in a Warp Prism, and he just goes ham on the other side of the map. Gets an army together, starts making his opponent's life a living hell. Right now, though, like, everything very, very standard. For Cham, he's making those units that we talked about, which, you know, if this was a normal DT timing or something, it would be
there is
good.
a mind game somewhere in there too, where like if you see Immortals, you're gonna think you don't need to get Spores a lot of the time, right? Because who would go Immortals into Dark Templars? Nobody does that. No. Apparently, besides Goblin.
Oh, he did get a little look at this Warp Prism, though. So using these Zerglings, being a little bit aggressive, but did get some vision there of this Warp Prism. Look at this Zergling spread, by the way. It's really nice by Cham. Like, he knows exactly what's coming this time. Although he doesn't necessarily know what's in this Warp Prism, because very often you think, like, it could be 4 DTs or 2 Archons, given that it's hitting a little bit later. But the 2 Immortals, he is making enough Queens to deal with, enough Lings to deal with this, so for sure.
Yeah, and Cham did let these Spores complete here. He's got one in the second base and in the third base, and now he's grabbing one in the main base. So even besides seeing the Immortals, he knows that there is additional danger on top of that. So I guess good for him, because otherwise Dark Templars could have been really scary. And in this case, Goblin is going to try to actually sneak through. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. I think a lot of Zergs, they would see Immortals, they'd be like, all right, I don't need Spores, I need units on the ground. And if you skip Spores, then your hatchery would die. But in this case, he's even ready with Links on the natural.
Solid defense by Cham so far. Getting some Ling kills, though, but doesn't want to commit. He was hoping to catch Cham totally off guard or overcommitting at that third base entirely. But Cham, very solid defense so far. It's almost as if Cham is a professional player here or something, Tom, because he's doing everything right.
Really nicely done. Behind this, we've got Charge on the way here for Goblin, who's grabbing yet another Immortal. It's going to be his third one here on the way.
I tell you what, though, it's still very scary fighting against this army. These DTs, they do one-shot the Lings, and that Spore, if that Spore goes down, there is nothing to protect these DTs anymore. Yeah, oh my gosh, there's so much damage.
Roaches are just not there. The hatchery is going to fall so fast. Goblin's reinforcing straight into the fight. Charge is not finished yet, but it's well on the way now, at about 80%.
Oh, I love how Goblin's doing this too. He's making Cham's life so difficult here. This is a 17-year-old boy all the way from Croatia coming here and showing a veteran like Cham how it's done. And really, honestly, great play by Goblin. That worked out way better than I thought it would. And honestly, it took just one moment there for Cham to kind of overextend, fight a little bit away from the Spore. But this was such a strong army. So much damage being done by Goblin.
Goblin's playing insane. He's never overcommitting or anything. Even the DTs at the natural, you know, a lot of players, they would be like, all right, you just got Lings, I'll just go in, kill them, but maybe trade it with the DTs. Now he was like, okay, I'll just kill a little bit, pull back, keep them alive, then re-attacks the third base. Cham not quite ready. And behind this, it's not like he's not macroing. He's making probes, 61 walkers to 62 now. He's been making Immortals continuously. He's got 2 more now, added on gateways, and I feel like a follow-up attack here after you kill a hatchery like that, and Zerg is missing all those injects for such a long time. He's gonna do great.
I like that you bring that up, that he's macroing behind this, because often you can find that these players that are a little bit off style, you know, a little bit crazy around the edges, they often fall apart in a lot of other ways. But here, Goblin's doing a lot of stuff really well behind this as well. Like the macro's really good. The double Stargate, is that as if he's assuming that it's possibly Mutas here, given that he hasn't been able to scout everything behind? But Cham, he's going for the kill with this move here. And if this Observer in the top right can somehow sneak in here and get vision of that, he'd be in such a good spot.
I don't know if Goblin's worried about Mutas or if he's just flexing on Cham at this point with that double Stargate.
I mean, when you're a young guy, you can often feel like you can get away with showboating a little bit, but he has to respect this army. Right now, this hallucination isn't getting the scout that it needs. He doesn't know about the Nidus, but his army's still very, very strong. Like, there's no doubt about it. Goblin's in the driver's seat, but that Nidus is going for the main base now.
Yeah, Cham is going to have to find some damage here in a second if he wants to be able to do anything here in this game. Because right now, it's the Croatian Protoss with a nice walk and lead here. Roaches are going to start to go out inside of the main base. Is he going to recall? Or is he's just counter-attacking?
Oh my gosh, I mean, he's making this all or nothing at this point. I thought, maybe, is there an Overseer there to warp in? I mean, rather, is there an Overseer to see the DTs?
No.
No, so that's his cleanup card here. So that will be able to deal with that slowly.
Touching the corrosive bias here very nicely. Let's see if Cham is enough. He's got a lot of roaches. He would like to be able to kite, but I think Goblin will not allow that here with force fields. He jumps on top of this army here.
Oh, nice cleanup of the force fields by Cham, but there is so much still being warped in here. 11 drones falling, and this army, those Immortals going so ham on the back line. They are not falling anytime soon. These Immortals, though, getting weak. Oh, picks up some Immortals here just to keep them alive, but they're actually full health, so maybe a little bit of a misclick there, but still, there is not enough Cham here. There are so many Immortals still left over, and Goblin, he's still got money in the bank. He's got money for days with this one. Cham, wounded at this point, a final warping by the looks of it. These Ravagers doing everything they can, trying to get that warp prism, but no, he still lives.
Yeah, these Immortals starting to die left and right here. There's only going to be 3 left over. Goblin kills the third base and then evacuates, and at this point, it's kind of been reset, you know, the situation from earlier where he kills the third base, he's still on 3 bases, but now Cham with so little forces, less army supply, less Walker. Look at it, the Muslim.
It's pretty darn good for Goblin at this point, Todd. It definitely is. And, you know, Goblin played a really good game. It looked like Cham's defense was pretty damn solid. Like, he had Spore Crawlers in the right places, Zerglings in the right places, but all it took was for one chink in the armor, and Goblin just went for it and started nailing his third. And right now, Goblin, he's looking for the kill at this point. Cham doing everything he can to try and get damage done, to try and keep alive in this game, but Goblin, he's not letting up anytime soon. The Warp Prism again, warping in a huge amount of Zealots here.
Yeah, and Goblin's gonna go for the killing blow here. Cham taps out, and Goblin with a 2-0